Today we're going to be reviewing for the next upcoming quiz on lessons 2.6 through 2.9. This is the Algebra quiz review. Here we're asked to determine whether the pair of ratios are equivalent ratios, and we're supposed to write yes or no. When we're trying to determine whether a pair of ratios are equivalent, we would like to, or we need to, cross multiply. So we're going to cross multiply. And we're going to get what 27 times 5 is. And 27 times 5 is 135. And we want to see whether 45 times 3 is also 135. And it is. So since one side equals the other, when you cross multiply, this would be yes, they are equivalent. The next problem, we're also going to cross multiply. So 18 times 4, which is 72. And we want to check whether that is equal to 32 times 3. And 32 times 3 is 96, which is not equal. So the answer to this problem would be no. Here we're supposed to solve the proportion, and you're going to solve the proportion just like you checked to see whether they were equivalent or not, the ratios. So we're going to cross multiply. 4 times 25, which is 100, and 9 times a, which is 9a, and then I'm going to solve for a, so I have to divide. Cancel out the 9, and a would be 100 over 9, which would be 11.1 repeating, or you can write it as 11 and 1/9. Or, quite frankly, you can keep it as 100 over 9 also. So all three of these answers would work. And we're going to do the same thing for the next one, solving for u. So I would multiply 4 times 35, which is 140, and 28 times u, which is 28u. And again, I would divide by 28 to solve for u, and I would get 140 divided by 28, which is exactly 5. Now we're going to state whether the percent of change is a percent of increase or a percent of decrease, and then we're going to find this percent of change. So we have two problems here. When we're finding the percent of change, we need to use the ratio where we subtract the two numbers. You always want to subtract the higher minus the lower because you don't want a negative number. And that's going to be our numerator, so 35 minus 32. And our denominator is always going to be our original number, which was 35. So if I were to solve, I would have 3 over 35, but my answer needs to be written as a percent. So I would need to change 3 over 35 into a decimal by doing 3 divided by 35, and that gives me about 0.0857. And I'm going to have to move the decimal place 2 spots to the right to get 8.5%, or about 8.5%. And this is going to be a percent decrease because we went originally from 35 down 3 to get to 32 for our new value. So it's an 8.5% decrease. Now we're going to do the next one, which is the original is 78 and the new is 125. So let me erase this so we have some room. And so we get the original 78, the new 125. So we're going to take 125 and subtract 78 for our numerator. And we put our ratio over 78 since it's the original. So 125 minus 78 gives me 47. And 47 over 78 I need to change into a percent. So I'm going to divide 47 divided by 78, which gives me about 0.60 or 0.602. And I'm going to move the decimal place 2 spots to the right to get 60.2, and that's going to be my percent. And then I need to see whether this is an increase or a decrease. So originally 78 going up to 125 for the new value makes this an increase. So it's a 60.2% increase. Next, we're going to solve a problem where we need to find the total price. So anything where we are finding the total price, we're going to take the price given to us, which is $12, and we're going to multiply it by the sales tax, or the percent, but we need to write it as a decimal. So I'm going to move the decimal place to the left 2 spots to do that, which makes it 0.05. So 12 times 0.05 gives me 0.6, and this value I'm going to add to 12 because I want the total price with the tax. So 12 plus 0.6 is 12.6, or if I write it as a cost or a price, it's going to be $12.60. Here, we're doing the same thing as we did for the last problem, but notice that the percent this time is discounted. So its store sells a certain cell phone model for $105. We're going to take the $105 and then multiply, because it says a special promotion. During the special promotion, the phone is discounted by 20%, so I'm going to multiply by 20%, but as a decimal, so 0.20. That gives me 21. Since this is discounted, I'm now going to take the 105 and subtract the 21 to get my total price of $84. Here we're asked to solve each equation or formula for the variable specified, so we're going to be basically moving things around here to try to get, for the first one, C by itself. So to get C by itself, I'm going to need to move everything away from the C. So on the left side you have a P times C, and then you have minus T. Since the T is not directly with the C, I'm going to cancel that out first and bring it over to the other side. I'm going to add because it was minus T. So I get PC equals X plus T. And now I need to cancel out the P. So P times C means I would need to divide by P. So C is by itself, and I have X plus T over P, and that's all I can do. My next problem, I'm also going to be solving for C, but it's set up a little bit differently. So I need to cancel out what's not directly with the C here, which is the B, And since this is divide by b, I'm going to multiply by b on both sides. So that cancels out the b on the side with the c. So I just have a minus c now. And I multiplied x by b, so I have bx, or xb, which means b times x. So then I need to get the a away from the c. So I would actually need to subtract the a, because the subtraction sign here applies to the c, not the a. So to cancel out the a, I would need to subtract. And I'm going to subtract from the other side as well. And I'm left with negative c equals bx minus a. And I can't have a negative variable, okay? So that means I would need to divide by negative 1, since there's a negative 1 there. And to cancel out the negative sign, I'm dividing by negative 1 on the other side. So I get c equals bx minus a over negative 1. Now I can simplify this by basically changing the signs. So bx divided by negative 1 only makes the bx negative. And then the minus a divided by negative 1 actually makes the a positive. So I can simplify it to this. Negative bx plus a. And that's my final answer. Now here I put that you will need to know how to do a percent mixture problem and an average speed problem from lesson 2.9. Remember, you can use your notes to help you set up the problems, but they are also going to be extra credit. So you don't actually have to do them if you don't want to, but I would strongly encourage trying. So there's going to be a percent mixture problem and an average speed problem that you're going to need to know how to do. And then the final problem, we're going to be given a formula, and this says the formula for the area of a trapezoid is a equals 1/2 h times a plus b, where h represents the height and a and b represent the lengths of the bases. So we're going to first solve for h, meaning we want to get everything away from the h. So we need to start by what's not directly with the h, which is the a plus b. So if I'm going to cancel that out, since it's h times a plus b, I'm going to divide both sides by a plus b. And you can keep them in parentheses if you want. But we're dividing both a plus b on both sides, and that cancels out the a plus b. And then I need to get rid of the 1/2. Whenever I have a fraction next to a variable, remember I need to multiply by the reciprocal to cancel it out. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I have 2a over a plus b equals h. And that would be what my formula